What's going on, guys? Ed here from Geek, and we're back with another agency, Google Ads agency roundtable. I believe this is the third one. I believe Dustin was too good for us last time and no showed last week.
Sorry, couldn't be there.
All right, so I got Rob, my business partner. I got Dustin Miller, Mark Kelly, Nick Kremer, and we're here to talk today all about Google Ads optimizations. How do you optimize Google Ads accounts? What's your cadence for doing it? The difference between optimizing for local lead gen versus e-com. And we're also going to dip our toe into the removal of extended text ads and the wave of responsive ads that are coming our way come, I believe it's June. So let's roll into it, and let's just go around the horn and say, what's the role of campaign optimization in your business versus the build? Kind of just walk me through how you optimize, what your cadence looks like, that kind of stuff. You want to roll first, Dustin?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the build is a huge monumental task, even though Ed, you've tried to help me with that over the years, and we've gotten way better. I will say that it is a huge monumental thing, mainly because we're not in one particular niche. So we are kind of doing everything custom for the most part, or the first time, a lot of the times. Now that we're focusing on tour operators, it makes it way easier because I have a really good idea on structure and how we're laying things out. But I think in terms of the build, it's all about, I think, planning ahead, planning a few steps ahead. So for a lot of times, what we'll do is look at keyword kind of intent, and we might build out tier 1 and tier 2 campaigns. Tier 1 being like, this is high intent. Tier 2 is like, hey, there's not enough budget to spend in high intent. Let's maybe go after a little bit more researchy type of keywords that might convert. Segmenting that out early, or looking at structure between different budgets, locations, whatever you have that needs its own budget or its own tracking or its own thing, breaking that out. And then optimization, we're in every account every week, sometimes multiple times a week, depends on how much traffic we get, and handling all the important stuff, negatives, adding new keywords, just checking on the general polls where we're pacing with the budget, maybe add updates if it's required that particular week or whatnot. So we have a different flow each week that we do, so it's not the same exact thing all the time. So I'll stop there.
Is one of your required steps the declining of Google recommendations on a weekly basis?
Yeah, that actually is, but it's every 2 weeks. I mean, I have the team review them, because sometimes there's like things that's like, crap, I didn't think about doing this particular thing. So we don't do the auto apply. That they would love for that, but that ain't happening. No.
Well, that's a Google revenue driver right there. That's why they're doing that. Mark, how about you? What's the role optimization in your business?
Yeah, as Dustin noted, the launch is often a heavier lift, and then we really start with a pre-launch or post-launch check, just to sort of take a look at it 3 or 4 days later to make sure everything is copacetic and healthy. And we launch with manual bids, so we have to check to see if we bid correctly and if Google gave us the right estimates for bids. And then we just launch into a weekly optimization after that. We have two approaches. One is that we do sort of a high-level review of every account to see if we're hitting the budget, if we're getting leads at the cost per lead, and try to just get a sense of whether we're getting good quality leads on them. And then we do a detailed optimization, and it varies so much based on how much ad spend there is, how large a territory they cover. If it's a fairly straightforward landscaper, plumber serving a 30-mile radius, then we're looking at a lot of negative keywords and looking at this keyword's been clicked 15 times and hasn't converted type of thing. But if it's a larger client and you're looking at or with a broader spend, wider area, you're looking at more things like what states or cities are they converting in. And then you have to pay attention to those things that you overlook sometimes: devices, bid adjustments, audiences where you're allowed to make adjustments, audiences where you're not allowed to, because Google's gotten really tough on some of those things, like in real estate in different areas. So it varies, but we touch them all weekly, and some of them, as Dustin noted, more than weekly if they're not performing.
Nice. You nailed something there. It all depends. I was doing an interview with a real estate investor about 2 hours ago, and we were talking about optimizations, and it comes down to click cost and budget. And an investor might have 50 clicks a month versus a detailing client might have 50 clicks in a day or every couple of days. So it really just comes down to click cost versus your daily budget. And that kind of influences how much you can actually optimize, because you have to do it based off the data versus gut feel. So you nailed a really important part there, Mark.
Well, if you're in, water remediation or water restoration, and you got a $2,500 budget, you got $50 to $60 clicks, there's a limited set of things that you can do there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
your hands are kind of tied at that point when you're
Yep.
limited by your budget.
Yep. And you gotta reframe the client expectations over like a 60 to 90-day time frame in terms of optimization and getting that cost per lead down, because you just can't do the same things you do for a lower click cost or a more market appropriate budget style thing. So it does take longer to dial in. Nick, you're down there shaking your head. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree. Like everything everybody said, I wholeheartedly agree. Like ours is, everybody likes to say you're unique, but honestly, in this group, I think everybody does a good job. The great Mike Rhodes always told us, if you do anything to an account, do any kind of auditing, then you're doing more than 99% of your competitors. Like honestly, and we see that there's a lot of people that will build an ads account and act like that they just created life and like, oh, I'm a magician. I just got this traffic to flow. It's great. Set it and forget it. And like, this is not a Roundtable Peel setup, right? You gotta get in there and get some work going, right? So when we start a new account, there's a quick overview audit from somebody else's eyes to make sure it was done right, set up correctly, everything's where we want it to be. We also do manual only, similar to what Mark said. And then for the first week, don't touch a damn thing. We have a lot of people that have budgets that, let's say it's $1,500 a month, but we also have a client that does 40 grand. We got another client that's pushing 100. So it all comes down to cadence of, traffic and data. If there's no data to do anything new, then you can't do anything new. So a big thing for us is, and I sort of stress on my account managers, is don't pull too many levers. So if we go in and change 7 things and stuff goes well, my question is, what did we change that worked? No clue, because we did too much. So if you want to do some testing and you want to try stuff out, then go through and do it, do one lever here. And then if you want to go back in a couple of days, do another one, but give it data, give it time to breathe and to tell you whether you made the right decision or wrong decision. So our accounts are usually touched every week. And sometimes they're not. Like that's the other kicker is a lot of times we're under the impression, like my employees are under the impression that we've got to touch something every week where we're not doing right by that client. No, that's completely wrong. If you're getting a great cost per lead and you're pumping their system full of new leads and they're coming back and saying things are good, don't touch too much stuff, right? Get in and get rid of your negative, like keep adding negative keywords, keep promoting good keywords into exacts. But don't go out and touch stuff just to touch stuff, because you're going to end up blowing it up. The account's going to end up going the wrong direction. Another thing that we do that I think is important for auditing the account is having conversations. Like if you have a conversation with a client and they're saying, there's 3 or 4 cities and let's say you're in Tampa, you're in Clearwater and Indian Rocks, right? So if all of their deals and all their phone conversations are coming from Clearwater and not St. Pete or Tampa, we should push more money to the Tampa or to the Clearwater account. So, having those kind of conversations, not only does it might move your cost per lead up, but the ROI is going up. And ultimately that's the only KPI that we really want to deal with is the ROI.
Very good. You nailed something there. You said no multivariate testing. We're not dealing with the first time I'd heard about multivariate testing was at a marketing conference. It was the director of Obama's digital strategy, and he talked about all this multivariate testing. Mm-hmm. But he's dealing with billions of
dollars.
Yeah, and billions of dollars, and we're dealing with 50 clicks a week. So
right.
We don't really have that luxury.
Right.
And we always say to clients, like, go to. You got to do it in tranches. You got to look at your keywords, look at your ad copy, the magic formula: keywords, ad copy, landing page, and you have to test them once you've check the first box, then the second box, then the third box. Like you said, you can't test multiple things at once, or you don't really know what drove the result. So Rob, I know our process. Why don't you fill people in on what our process is, how we optimize things? And I will say, Rob, I saw the smirk on your face earlier when Dustin said, Ed, you've been hounding me about onboarding for years because I don't do any onboarding. Rob does all the onboarding and Rob gets zero credit in this business.
What
All right,
time is it
Rob.
right now? It's noon, right?
Noon.
It's noon right now. I onboarded 4 clients this morning. At 6 in the morning, I was up doing this. That's how we do it.
Yep.
But yeah, so our keywords strategy pretty much is exactly what Nick just said. I mean, we go in on a weekly basis and we have to have data to look at anything, right? If there's 11 clicks for the week, we can't really do much. So I understand what you're saying when you're like, we got to let it, sometimes you can't do anything, sometimes you can't. But for the most part, I'd say 99% of the time, we always have something to touch each week. And that's usually just either pausing non-converting keywords or keywords that are coming in way too high. And that's not over a weekly basis, but if we see a keyword we're getting killed at, let's say, our target's $50 for a lead or whatever, and it's like 200 something, I'll go back 30 to 60 and 90 and see if it was actually might be a good keyword in a shitty week. But most of the time it's something that has to get paused because it's not, it's wasting money. It's costing too much. And obviously turning off stuff that doesn't work, not converting, going through a search terms report, adding all the negatives, competitor terms as negatives, keyword expansion through search terms. We do a lot of that as well to attain more traffic that's converting that we're not currently going after. And something you said, Mark, about the device bids, I do that almost on a weekly basis. So I'll look at if I have runway to increase that based on the impression share of the device. And if I see that we're only, we're hitting 60% impression share at the top, that's giving me the green light to increase the bids on those and get more of that traffic that's converting the best. And likewise, if it's killing us, right? So we don't really run desktop pretty much for anybody. Only because it converts like shit 99% of the time for us. So basically all we really push is mobile because we want the phone calls are more valuable for our clients.
Mhm.
But that's something too. We do have a few guys who run desktop, and that's another lever that you can pull and dial the bids on desktop or turn them off completely, which we usually do. But some clients want the volume, so they want to keep it on.
If you're limited in budget, it usually makes sense, or I found it usually makes sense to turn desktop off, drive it to mobile, get the calls, but that's on a case-by-case basis, and sometimes on an industry-by-industry basis.
100%. Yeah.
Not as much anymore, but I used to notice, roofing was always desktop, but I figured it's old folks that own houses, on a PC.
They got money, Mark.
But
Old people got money.
Yeah.
yeah,
Nick, I think you're probably, I'd imagine you get a good chunk of desktop traffic.
Yeah,
Dustin, I'd imagine in water sports, you're the same boat.
Yeah, but a lot more mobile really for the tour operators. People on vacations, they don't always bring their computer with them if they're in destination.
I guess in your instance, yeah, it would depend on which campaign, the localized vacation one or
a US
vacation, the US based one. Interesting. How about you, Nick? What are you seeing? Mobile desktop?
We see 65% of the traffic through mobile. But there's a lot of times, like if it doesn't convert well, like mobile converts at half the rate that desktop does for us. So if we don't have a massive budget, we see a lot more, we see a lot better lead from desktop for our clients because they're sitting there and their search intent's a lot higher because they're sitting at a desk or sitting at their home. They're not on their phone walking around being distracted. So, there'd be times that we just shove mobile and tablet completely to -100 and run it all desktop because there's so much traffic.
Got it. That makes sense.
You got to go where the traffic is. Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Awesome. I bet a lot of that too is your landing pages are more geared. They're more built out probably, I would assume, right? For somebody at sitting desktop.
Yeah. So yeah, it takes longer to load, but that's fine because it's desktop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay. So let's go around the horn now and talk about if you could only have 2 optimizations to run on an account, what 2 would they be and why? So I'm gonna mix up the order this time. We're gonna start with Rob. Rob, if you only had 2 optimizations you could run on a campaign, what would they be and why?
Oh man. I mean, obviously it's got to be negative keywords and bidding, right? I mean, I feel like because if you set your bid wrong at the start and you can't mess with it again, if it's too low, you're screwed. So that's what I would say. I would say bidding and negative keywords.
Got it. Nick, how about you?
So yes, I'll go one step further. I'm gonna cheat a bit and say I go into my search terms and neg out a bunch of stuff and then promote a bunch of stuff into exacts.
Got it.
And then you're bidding 100%.
Got it. Mark?
Well, I'm going to go, I agree with both of those. And I think if I was going to cheat and not agree with those, I would go with device as one for sure. And probably after that, if you have enough data, day a week.
Got it. Okay.
Or schedule, and match it up with what works best for the client.
Got it. Dustin, how about you?
Yeah, I would say honestly that when Rob was saying that, I was thinking the same thing, because like if you only have two, you've either got like really bad traffic you want to get rid of, or you want to control the cost for the traffic you are getting. It's like, to me, those, and I think negative keywords and looking at search terms are, obviously one optimization, but we're also looking for new keyword themes in that list, because now Google's showing so many of the 0-click, 1 impression terms, which they never did. Well, they did years ago, they stopped and they did it again. I feel like there's a lot of information you can gather where, yeah, you didn't save any money because you never got the click, but now you're seeing what Google thinks you're relevant for or not relevant for, and you can take action on that. So that's a big one, especially for a new account,
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So for those of you watching, I want to describe something that just happened. You've got 4 agencies that only optimize Google ad campaigns for a living. That's what they do. That's how they make their money. And they've just said to you, the 80-20 of optimizing campaigns is in 2 things. It's in bidding and in the search term report, going negatives and adding in positives. So if you do nothing else on a weekly basis for your optimizations, that's going to be the bulk of what you should focus on. So I just want to hammer home how important it is that that's what everyone just agreed on as the most important thing to focus. Like anything else, there's an 80-20 to Google ads, and there's an 80-20 to your optimizations as well. So anybody want to add anything else into the mix there? Nope. All right. Next, we're going to talk about the dropping of expanded text ads and the move towards responsive ads. So Dustin, we're going to start off with you. Just walk me through what your overall thoughts are on what's going on and how you guys are mitigating or moving things over to responsive for your agency.
Yeah. I mean, this happened a couple of years, well, I don't know how many years it was, 6 years ago, when they got rid of regular text ads and they went to expanded. I just did an audit on an account like a month or 2 ago that had regular old text ads, not expanded, that were still running. I couldn't believe it. I was like checking my eyes. I'm like, wait a minute, I see something wrong here. They were actually still running. But this is just the evolution of where Google is going, right? They want more control. My big issue with RSAs is that they don't give you enough information on it. So as I'm like, we were going over this yesterday in our team meeting on how we're gonna look at split testing them and seeing what's working best. And really the only thing you have is looking at the combinations Google is showing and seeing what was in them. Like, you don't know what part of it did well. You just know that the ones that got the most impressions had these headlines, and you know that since we still have ETAs running, which ones are doing better there. So I think, like, in terms of having new ads, it is what it is. I mean, they're going to be doing some split testing for us. I don't think they do a great job necessarily yet, but I'm hoping that over time they'll give us more insights, if not more control. And we're just basically planning for making it happen. And how do we split test in this new thing? Because there's I'm probably more bullish on automation than anybody else in this call, or Google's AI. I'm not saying that it's perfect at all. I'm just saying that I used to not like it at all until a few years ago, and then it started working a lot better. But if Google gets to the point where they can actually do this better than our humans manually looking at these ads and manually making decisions, if they get to that point, then I'm all for it, right? I don't know if they'll get there right away. I don't think they're there today. I just think that, that's the direction they're going. So we're going to have to just follow along and hope that they get there quicker. And until that time, have some controls like pinning, and maybe how we're creating different RSAs to help steer the ship a little bit. That's just my personal.
You mentioned pinning. Can you delve into that or dive into that?
Yeah. I mean, so pinning is when you have a headline or a description line. We really only use it for headlines that you can pin in a certain location. So Google gives you a few options. You can pin it to any headline location, right? So it doesn't matter if it's headline 1, 2, or 3. You can pin it to a specific location, meaning just headline 1, just headline 2, just headline 3. And so you may want to do that. If you think about the reason I think Google probably even only created this was for probably compliance, where you have to have certain verbiage in an ad, like an APR if you're doing loans, right? Because you have to disclose that, or you have to have it somewhere, and it has to be in the ad, and you want it to be in a particular position. So that's where that can be helpful for making sure your keywords are showing up, or your best benefit is showing up, or something like that.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, your main hook. You definitely want to pin your main hook.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, it's forcing us to move from SCAGs to what I call STAGs, single theme ad groups. So we build up everything pretty much with the same approach. So we're really having to rebuild our process a bit. And I think for most local service businesses, one of the secrets is that there's probably 5 or 10 keyword phrases that are going to convert 80 to 90% of the time for you. So the approach that we're going to take is build out those single theme ad groups, and we're going to test pinning using the keyword phrases in maybe the first 6 to 10 positions and pinning them to 1, and then using the rest of the headlines for features and benefits and things like that. And probably, I don't know if we'll pin descriptions or not, but write multiple descriptions. So we'll have 2 ads per ad group, 2 responsive ads per ad group, one which we won't pin anything at all and let Google's AI do its thing. One where we're hoping Google's AI is smart enough to know what the search term was, promote it to headline 1 and make it clickable. And then we're going to see what seems to work and what doesn't. And I hope that we can figure it out. That's the approach we're taking. We discussed a number of them. No one on my team anyway had any clear, decisive, this always is going to work better. We're all just sort of figuring it out.
Cool. How about you, Nick?
So we do really well with our ad copy. And we've had a bunch of people copy our stuff, and it's pretty funny. We call it industry standard in the real estate industry, in the real estate arena. I'm not a fan of the ETAs going away, but we just stood up an account. This account that the guy wants to spend $100,000 a year, so we're pushing out as much money as possible. His click-through rate this week is 24%. So, and it sounds crazy. I'm bearish on Google's AI. I think it's trash. I'll be the first to say it's trash. But what they do well with this is we don't pin a ton of stuff. We've tested it on what we think is right and wrong, but we just put in a bunch of stuff that we know has worked, and then give them the keys to that. That's about the only thing that we do, letting Google take the reins on stuff. But what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to go in, see which combos work the best, potentially, and then start to pin accordingly to that. But yeah, I think to get that, the required amount of ads in, we're going to start to do the pinning on a couple of them, testing that more. But again, our RSAs are pretty dominant in the sense that we're getting we have clients that will come in and say, hey, they're looking at the wrong KPIs and saying, hey, we'd really like to get 6% click-through rate. I'm like, well, I mean, we can try to get that, but we typically get 15. So, I mean, I can try to make it worse. but I mean, that's just sort of what we've always had. And I think it's just giving the client what they want, right? So everybody here knows how to do that, and putting that keyword on that top spot where that person subconsciously is like, oh, that's exactly what I searched for, right? Yeah, that's for us. We're not going to see a big change. I mean, the ETAs don't get a ton of traffic right now for us because the RSAs are doing so well. So business as usual. I think our click-through rates are dictated by the fact that we have all the extensions that we do the way Google wants it. Honestly, I don't think it has as much to do with our ad copy being an ad copy savant by any means. I think it has a lot to do with us doing what Google tells us to do.
Got it. Roberto, what's our take on RSAs?
Well, we used to pin. We don't anymore. We haven't for a long time. We let Google duke it out. We don't really. Like I said before, I think before we start recording, we try to do 3 different ads, responsive search ads for each ad group. Now, it doesn't mean like, if it's, let's say it's a real estate investor and it's like sell my house fast and we buy houses. I'm not creating 3 different ads for sell my house fast and 3 different ads for we buy houses. I'm just taking the first 3, cloning them, dropping them into we buy houses and editing them slightly with keywords and stuff. So it's not like you have to keep coming up with 50 headlines every time you do an ad group. But yeah, I let Google figure it out. And like Nick said, the click-through rates are ridiculous. They're always like 15 plus. So they know what they're doing. And I'm pretty sure that their algorithm, once it finds a combination that's like killing it click-through rate wise, they just run with that. And they'll continually show the ad that has the highest performance, the combination at least. That's just what I think they're doing, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, I let them run and don't really have any, I don't pin anything. I don't really do anything anymore. Because when we started pinning them, it was kind of hindering what Google was doing. But I'm a firm believer that this is the direction it's headed in right now. And you can kind of see it over the last 5 years, is they want to have control of everything with the Google Ads platform. They want to have the automated bidding, which we use at 95% of our clients are either target CPA or max conversions. So like they know what they're doing. And we usually start out only a handful of clients with manual just because they want leads like right now. And you can't use smart bidding really for at least conversion bidding for a new campaign. But I think ads will be in the future. You're going to just put a URL in and it's going to give you a gigantic list of stuff you can just add.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, people already use that. What's there, like a Jarvis AI or something?
Jasper. Now it's called Jasper. They renamed it again.
Jasper. Yeah. Well, people already use that for ads, right? So the robots are already writing the ads. So I guess the goal is to either embrace it or we got to sell and get out before the Terminators take over.
Can I ask a question since you've been doing this for a while, Rob? Because my biggest concern is impressions are great, clicks are great, but are they going to optimize on the thing that I care about the most, which is conversions? So that's sort of my fear.
Yeah, honestly,
unfounded.
I don't think so. To be honest, I think what they're. I mean, I think that's a factor. I do, but I also think that what they're trying to get is the click-through rate because they want the clicks because that's where their money is. They want to get more clicks. That's all they really care about. So I'm pretty sure if I'm Google, my primary focus is having people with 50% click-through rates. Even if it converts to 3%, I don't really think they care because they want those clicks.
Yeah, but we care.
We do care.
We care. That's why we make landing pages. So I don't think it's going to get to that point because we control the experience part of it. I think that'd be good.
Hey, as long as the traffic's good though, right? If the traffic's what we want, we can turn it into leads. That's a post-click issue that you have a bunch of levers that you can do to fix that. So, but yeah, Mark, you're right, man. I don't think they really care too much about that, to be honest.
Our industry with the vendors we use for their websites, we're limited considerably on our landing pages and speed kills. So we have sites that convert at 3%. But the bounce rate is like 35. So Mark, I think they care about the bounce rate. And site speed does matter. But when we have, when we're like that client I talked about, it's 24% click-through rate, 83 cents a click in a pretty intense area, high dollar area. And their conversion rate is, if I have this up, conversion rate's like 6%, which is good. We're happy about that. But at the same time, I think the bounce rate is what Google's looking at on the site side. Honestly, I think for speed. Sure. It feels like bounce rate's more important than site speed. But definitely. I don't know. Because we have a really low bounce rate. We have like 26 to 35% bounce rate. We'll have some sites that are 50. Once we get to that 40 or 50, and we see that, we try to shift gears and get to a different setup on that on the landing page.
So a better question. You're getting 83-cent clicks in real estate on exact and phrase match keywords.
Yes.
That's amazing, dude.
That's the best really at what I do in the world.
83-cent click.
That's
a real estate agent. Listen to this guy, man.
Yeah. And we're trying to take, and our search impression share on that is, gosh, it's got to be 60%. So that he's trying to take up all the traffic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. That's awesome, man.
I was going to add to the question that Mark had about the conversion. I think that's where the smart bidding comes in. The reason why I'm more bullish on AI is because of smart bidding, because it wasn't working as well 3 or 4 years ago. We didn't use it at all. We were 100% manual. And then as we started using Google Experiments, testing against what we were doing, and we still do this for every new campaign, we start off with manual. We let it run till we have enough conversion data, a reasonable amount that I think Google could probably figure it out. And then we'll use a Google Experiment for maybe 50 or 30% of the traffic to the new bid strategy. let them duke it out for a little bit, see which one does better. If we don't like what we saw, we might switch to a different bid strategy, because we're doing both e-commerce and lead gen in some ways. Like even our tour operators they're getting calls and they're getting online bookings. So you've got different options, different levers you can pull with target ROAS or max conversion value now. But I think that's where they've done really well, because when it comes to bidding, like, the reality is we can bid on clicks we saw in the past, but you can't bid on an impression you're getting right now with the metrics that they're using. So like there's already a human limitation that is inherent that they can figure out. They have the tools to do it. Will they do the best job all the time? I'm not saying that they will, but that's why we split test. It's an experiment. We let them prove to us that they can do a better job, or at least as good of a job. And then we'll kind of still direct them with maybe the target ROAS, the target CPA that we're going after. Sometimes we have to increase it because maybe we start seeing volume go down because we had a bad week or something. Like there's still leverage you got to pull with it. It's not like it's just a, set and forget, which I'm not saying that for you, Mark. I'm saying more for people watching this, but I think that's where it happens.
PA. Do you have a preference on which bid strategy you use?
It depends on the client. I mean, e-commerce is always max conversion value. And if it's lead gen, we would always use max conversions. Just with a target CPA in almost every case. Sometimes we'll open it up and not even have one. If we feel like things have been going pretty well and our CPA is already pretty much in line, sometimes we'll just go without a target just to see what Google can do, knowing where we've been, right? Because sometimes they just go off the rails. Sometimes they don't, but
yeah, you got to be careful with that though. We learned that the hard way. And
we watch it. We definitely watch
limo
it.
company. We had
oh my God, you remember that?
$400 clicks in the limo industry.
$400 clicks for a rental.
Yeah, we're like Google. That's a $400 click, and he's like, yeah, well, that's where the market's at right now. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like the whole job that he's bidding for is $300. Who out there is bidding $400? I was like,
He makes it up in volume though.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, come on, guys.
Actually, Ed, that was max clicks when it first came out. We didn't put the bid cap.
No bid cap.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, Ed just like called me. He's like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm like, look at it. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
And then a Google rep called the client and told him this was going on, and then took the account from us because that we didn't put a bid cap in on it. Client was won over by this Google rep, went to Google rep, and then the Google rep tanked the campaign in like 2 weeks and ended up coming.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Shocker. Yeah.
That happens?
Shocker. I know.
He came back though, and he stayed for years.
Yeah.
Actually, he stayed. He shut his company down.
Yeah. So let's not. I don't want to talk about the name of the company, but
well, I will say this, guys. We had a $9,000 weekend in a very similar situation one time. We actually got a huge refund, like almost all of it back, believe it or not, from Google, because we were spending 6 figures a month on this. But actually, we're spending multiple 6 figures a month on accounts, but for this particular guy. But what happened was max conversions so this is the thing that I learned during that time, because I'll never forget, is you can't use max conversions with a unreasonably high daily budget. Okay. And the reason why is because you're telling Google, I want to get every chance to convert I can with all of this money. Now they spend 3x that amount because you already know they can do that. And I don't know why, but we had we had aggressive budgets. We were ready to go, but it was in the investor space, the home investor space. You guys know how that goes. You got some days you can spend a couple hundred, some days you can spend nothing. For whatever reason, that weekend seemed like a hot weekend of Google because they were spending, like you said, $400 clicks. And I'm like, dude, we spend $30 a click on this keyword. This weekend it was 400 just because there was an impression left that we could possibly get. I'm like, so we learned to make sure our daily budgets are reasonable to where, we're spending for the most part that amount. So it's not, because we were like 4x what we could possibly spend in a day at that point. We just wanted to be there and just in case and show Google we were serious. But yeah, we got the money back, man. So, I mean, I can't really complain. The client was happy because I was like, oh crap, man, $9,000 in a weekend. And we don't work on the weekend. So that was a fun Monday.
Yeah.
I bet. So something we've seen pick up a lot over the last 18 months or even 2 years, really 3 years. We just feel like the problem's escalating faster and faster is what we call the Google tax. And it is out of area calls that Google will say, or out of area leads that Google will say never happened. We could show them an IP address. We could show them a recording of the call. We could show them a lead. but we're seeing it at an accelerated rate faster than we've ever seen it. And Google won't refund. And if they do refund, they'll refund for a single click, not the cost for the conversion. What are you guys doing to mitigate the Google tax? Is there anything we're not doing that we should be doing to help alleviate it? But we're just seeing it as a big issue across the board.
For every client.
Really? I
Yeah.
haven't had that experience. I mean, we do get some people that are out of the area. Like we have a guy in California that somebody called from down here where I'm at in Florida, but I don't know if maybe they were interested in that area for something. So I haven't seen a huge.
Well, hold on. Let
Right.
me also clarify something I didn't say. We're excluding all the areas around the target locations. Most times we're excluding all the states except for that state, and then we're excluding the areas around the targets. But this is also, it's not like it's 20 calls a month. It's like 2 to 3 a month. So it's not like a huge problem, but it's still annoying.
It's annoying
Annoying enough to
because
get emails about it.
Yeah, it's a support issue where clients are like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
That's kind of that's why I bring it up, because it's just a frustrating thing that we have to deal with that Google won't acknowledge. And
No, they
it's
just,
like, they're like, "Oh, it never happened." And I'm like, you go back to the client and be like, "No, Google said it didn't happen." And you're like, "I just talked to Deborah in Wisconsin. I'm in Miami. What's going on?"
I'll see some weird search terms too along those lines where it's like, plumber race scene, Wisconsin or something. I'm like in targeting people in Allentown, Pennsylvania or something. And
Yeah.
we've had a few out of area calls, and it's not a huge thing, as Rob noted, but it's a client, you're on the client's radar all of a sudden. Because they're like, we said we only serve this area. And I can show them we're only targeting this area,
Yep.
but for some reason, we got a call from that area.
Yeah. And then we try to explain it's the Google mobile targeting, because the majority of the time it's a mobile issue.
it
And-
is almost all the time.
Yeah, and then we just say that it's the Google tax and that it's an issue with Google's mobile targeting. And
I'm writing that down.
yeah, we have a video on it. If you Google the Google tax, or if you YouTube it, you'll see the video come up, and it's just we just call it a cost of doing business with Google, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
Which brings you to one of my favorite things, the people who absolutely hate Google, but have to advertise on it. Yeah.
Isn't that everybody?
There's some that are more intent than others. There's some that are writing manifestos, even as we speak.
Are you guys, so when you're getting those calls, are you doing like we have a master negative keyword swipe file and put all the states and states abbreviations in there? Are you putting those in there?
This is this isn't at a,
It's just your ad serving.
this isn't at a, this isn't at a keyword level. This is ad serving outside geographic targeting.
Even if you look in Google, it's saying that it never happened in the locations where all your clicks. You don't even see it in there. So I don't know what the hell it is.
It's not in the IP addresses, but we can see it in ClickCease. We can see it in we can see it in CallRail, the recording.
All we can really do is just block the number. If that's even worth it. Sometimes.
Yeah. Debbie has never been outside of the state of. She's not driven through Miami. She's never been outside of Wisconsin. So it's not like she's getting picked up in a dragnet previously in type thing. So that's why we call it the Google tax.
I would keep calling it that and asking the client if they're making money. You're going to have a couple of those a month.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's one of my big things against the pay-per-lead model using Google Ads. It's like when you're doing management, you can factor in all of this stuff, the people calling for jobs that are clicking on ads and don't realize that click just cost the client $55.
Right.
And like all the stupid shit, we call it you can't take dumb out of the equation when dealing with Google Ads or Google, the searcher on Google Ads. So when you factor that all into the cost of management over the course of the month, it'll make sense and it'll pan out. But when you're doing it on a pay-per-lead basis and you've got to factor in losses that clients aren't going to want to pay specifically for, pay-per-lead can be brutal with Google Ads. I love it with SEO, but Google Ads always makes me nervous when it comes to pay-per-lead.
Yeah, I've tried it a few times and it doesn't work consistently for me for all those issues you talked about. If you're in roofing, it only takes one click to blow the cost per lead, or a few clicks to blow the cost per lead, and then 1 or 2 leads that people want to argue about, understandably, because they aren't leads.
Yep.
They're a guy looking for a job.
Yep.
And that happens all the time in the trades.
Yeah. And if you go to Google will say, well, technically it is a lead because that person did exactly what it is that you wanted them to do. They searched for roofing company. They clicked on it. Now they're like, I'm looking for a foreman job. So yeah, it sucks, but that's that's my main gripe against it. And if you've got, you got 4 agencies here that run Google Ads for a living, and they're all telling you they don't like pay-per-click, with the caveat that we like revenue shares and revenue splits. Like Dustin, I know you like that, and that's a different scenario because it's not a per transaction cost. It's okay. This is the block of leads, and this is the revenue we're going to share in it. And it's not a one-to-one transaction. It's a bit cleaner that way, but you got to have a lot of trust in place and really have some good ways of checking and calling their bullshit, if you will.
You have trust issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the one that I like the best that we do for some clients is a hybrid. So they pay the ad spend, we do the management, right? Because now there's a shared kind of skin in the game sort of a thing. It doesn't have to be that way, but I find that it works better because I know what my team is I know it's gonna cost to do the work, and sometimes it's cheaper for them to just do it, just pay us a flat management, depending on how many leads they're gonna get or what we charge. But I think that's another way to make it something where you can both win. Hey, look, we're gonna work the management at no cost, but per lead, we're gonna get X dollars. And I've got clients that have been doing that for years. And
Right.
We just bill them every 2 weeks, or we actually bill them up front, deduct from their reserve that they have set up, and then give them a report at the end of the week. You want to dispute them, feel free, but until you do, we're charging you for them. And I think it can be a great model if you want to do that. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes you want to, you have something really good, a campaign that works well, and you have somebody that wants to grow. Well, let's both grow. Like, we'll put in the extra work. Like, I'll find things that they don't pay me to find that might help us. I'll spend money on new landing pages, developing them or whatever, testing new stuff, because if I can get more leads, I'm gonna get paid more, right? He doesn't have to pay for that. So I think it can be a really good approach if you want to go that route, but I'm not saying everybody should. So
Got it. Very cool. Nick, you ever do anything on the paper lead or rev share?
I can't do it because of RESPA. I don't have a real estate license, and I don't plan on getting one. I've been offered that, once a month. But it's okay to have trust issues when you're dealing with my industry. So usually they want to do that. And then how do you track when that house was sold or how that house was sold?
Yeah.
Yes, we avoid it. I mean, I get the theory, and I've had, I'm good friends with Dan Wardrope. Dan's like, man, you got to do this. This is you can make a lot of money. You're really good at PPC. I'm like, my risk appetite isn't that big. It's I get where the value is. I don't have a lot of desire to do it. There's another thing I'm not going to mention here that we could potentially do real well with, where it doesn't. We'll just do it offline. There's an opportunity that's been presented to us that we're like, okay, that could make us a ton of money, and I'd be okay with pay-per lead on that side.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's hang up now then, Nick. Let's talk. Just kidding.
All right.
all right.
Yeah, I just want to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're near the end of our hour here, guys. Anything you want to leave off with in terms of optimizing extended text ads? Anything about running an agency? Anything you want to leave off with?
I mean, I'll talk about really quick to expand text ads optimization a little bit more. I mean, I think that I like what Rob was saying. What Nick was saying earlier about not touching things for no reason. It's like work for work's sake, I think in some ways you can end up hurting things a lot more than you can help if there's things that are not broken. So if your bids are dialed in and you're getting traffic for the cost you want, things are working out. Unless you're trying to have more impression share or lower the cost per lead or whatever, leave that crap alone. Let it run. Find something else to do at that time, right? It doesn't mean don't do anything. It just means focus on maybe your landing page a little bit more that month. So I think people get, my team included, I'm trying to I have checklists people follow, but I'm trying to get, them to also think let's do what needs to be done. The checklist is there as making sure we're not missing anything, but not to say everything needs to be touched every time. So it's kind of really hard, but I think that for a lot of things, you should look at the 80-20 of optimization and also the impact of things, right? So after you've had an account for 6 months, depending on how clean the traffic is, hopefully negative keywords are a nice thing to have, but they're not going to jump your account 20%, right? You're not going to add this negative keyword that somehow got by you after 6 months, that if you just added it, now your cost per lead drops 80%, right? So I think there's a life cycle to optimization too, that should be factored in, where what's really going to move the needle after you've been doing stuff for 6 months? It's can I get more traffic, lower the cost significantly? can I get better conversion rates? I mean, that's really what it is. And then the messaging plays into all that. But I feel like those are the more important things to think about after you've kind of found a lot of the other things that work. And like I said, with RSAs, with the pinning, we are pinning everything right now. Not everything, but like headlines 1, we'll create different descriptions with different headlines with the keyword in them, because typically we'll have the keyword in headline 1. So we might have 3 or 4 iterations of just that. Headline 2 will be our biggest benefit that we want to have in all of the ads or whatnot. So we may have 3 or 4 iterations of that, and we pin a headline 1 and 2, let the rest duke it out, and still give Google a chance to split test between those headlines, but not full control yet. Now we've done both. It's way easier to not pin anything, quite honestly. It's so much easier, but for right now, I'm just, like I said, I'm bullish on Google's AI, but I am, when it comes to the ads, I see what they're showing, the combinations. I'm like, who the freaking hell would want to click on that? Like, it just looks like crap. And it's like, oh, our best benefit was nowhere there. I'm like, all right, great. And then what happens is the client sees that. Happens all the time. Hey, how come we didn't say this in the ad? I'm like, well, we told Google we wanted to, but they decided not to show it. Then you have to explain it. And that's all fine and dandy. But the reality is, I know that most likely this ad is going to work better because I'm a marketer, right? I know that Google's got AI. Okay, fine. But I know that if people know the price of this thing and we're the cheapest, it will have an impact. Not just that Google decided to show we've been in business for 12 years. Okay, that's great. But people don't care about that. They care about the money, and then they'll care about you've been in business for 12 years, right? That's how we think. It's like, if you told me you've been a marketer for 8 years, but you charge like $80,000 a month, I don't really care, because you ain't nowhere near my price range, right? I don't care about your experience maybe at that point yet if I can't afford you. So I just feel like there's some things that AI will do better and well, but I think I'm not willing to just give them the full reign there yet, because I just don't trust them, man. And the other thing was, I'll say, and I'll end with this, is that for the split testing, we're just trying to use different angles for each RSA. So basically, like, maybe we'll have one about pricing, if we're like a really good price, let's say, and then maybe one about experience, if we're trying to harp on our experience. And those headline 2s will be, or, you know, maybe the whole ad will be tailored to those sorts of themes. And then we'll use labels, like labels for the ads, to label what they are, right? Why? So now in aggregate, we can get a feel for doing a filter down on label, you know, the experience label, let's say, and see how the ads in aggregate are doing versus the other one. And that's helpful, because otherwise you have to let each aggregate by itself, and we still can. But I think sometimes it's good to see everything in one bulk view and know, okay, this ad and this ad comparatively across the entire account are doing, you know, either better or not better, or whatnot. So those are a couple of things we're trying to do for that as well.
One thing I'll throw on there about changing stuff in an account. I think there's value in having something in the change history, especially if you're white labeling work, Mark. You just have to have some sort of an accountability that something's happening, even if it doesn't need to happen. So even just adding in negative keywords, having click cease in there, auto adding in negative IP addresses or declining recommendations, having something in there, I think from a white label perspective is good, because I think a lot of the agencies that are selling it aren't going to be prepared to how to answer it. So just having something in the change history, I think is appropriate from a white label perspective. Just something to throw out there if your agency is white labeling and it's something you're doing. Even if it's working well, do some change history stuff, or you're going to get some shit from somebody along the lines at some point. So
eventually it will happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'll back you 100% on that one. We literally make sure we up something every week, because then, you know, for the exact reason you said. The other challenge that we run into is, give me something to tell the client. Well, there's nothing strategic to tell you. You're actually the agency of record for the client. We're just the Google Ads people. So we don't really come to you every month on your plumbing account with an exciting new strategy, but we do have a list, and we keep notes, and we have a history. And that's how we pretty much cover that. As long as we're trending the right way, I don't care too much. You know, we're doing our job. Our job is to get good leads at a good cost.
Yeah. It's always nice to lean on the change history when a client said nothing's been done in the account, and you open up the change history, and since it started, there's 2,700 changes in the account, and you're like, mister. So it's always nice to have that there. You know,
especially if they're only our changes and not their changes.
Oh yeah, especially if they're all sort by email. See who's making those changes. That's awesome. All right, guys, that's it for today. Until next time, thank you very much for your time today, guys.